Finn stood up, taking Adrian's hands and pulling him gently to his feet. He began to lead him out of the cold parlor and across the creaking wood floor, toward the hallway. They didn't speak again until they were in the warm, familiar sanctuary of Finn's bedroom, a room Adrian instantly recognized from a life ago, now updated with stacks of musical scores, a comfortable mess and the faint, enduring scent of sandalwood. Finn turned to Adrian and pressed him gently back onto the bed. He didn't rush but instead sat beside him, his gaze soft, just watching Adrian, letting him feel safe. He reached out and brushed a stray lock of hair from Adrian's forehead. "You look tired but better," Finn noted. "I feel unfurled," Adrian admitted, feeling the heavy exhaustion of the day finally settle into profound relaxation. Finn smiled, that deep, true smile that reached his eyes. He lay down beside Adrian, pulling him into the curve of his body, sheltering him with a strong, solid embrace. There was no need for words or dramatic action. The intimacy was in the stillness, the simple confirmation that they were finally, physically back in the same space. Adrian closed his eyes, listening not to the distant roar of the ocean, but to the strong, steady cadence of Finn's heartbeat beneath his ear. It was the only rhythm he needed. For the first time in 10 years, Adrian the cellist was simply home. Flashback. 10 years ago, August, the Oakhaven bus depot was a dusty, wind-bitten shack overlooking the highway, the last place where grand declarations of love or devastating farewells should take place. But for Adrian, who was 18 and carrying the weight of his entire future in a heavy velvet-lined cello case, it felt like the end of the world. The bus to Boston, the first leg of his journey to the city, was due in 20 minutes. Finn stood beside him, silent, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of his jacket, despite the summer heat. Finn hadn't tried to talk Adrian out of it. That had happened weeks ago, in arguments that had scorched the air between them. Now there was only the dull ache of inevitability. "I got the scholarship, Finn," Adrian repeated, needing to justify the enormity of his departure one last time. "The Juilliard acceptance, this is the chance. My entire life depends on me taking this bus." "I know what it is," Finn said. His voice flat, he turned his head, looking not at Adrian, but at the highway stretching endlessly toward the horizon. "It's your path and I respect that. I just don't respect that you're acting like my path doesn't exist." Finn wasn't going to be a performer. He was going to be a composer. His world was rooted in Oakhaven, the coastal silence necessary for him to hear the intricate internal melodies he needed to capture. He had already set up his studio in the old Victorian. He belonged to the deep, resonant rhythm of the ocean. Adrian belonged to the soaring, demanding rhythm of the symphony hall. "You could come with me later," Adrian offered, knowing it was a hollow promise. "Next year, once I'm settled." Finn finally looked at him, and the pain in his slate-colored eyes was so profound it made Adrian recoil. "And do what, Adrian? Write film scores in a cramped, dark apartment while you practice for 10 hours a day? I need the air here, I need the perspective. You'd hate me for asking you to stay, and I'd suffocate trying to keep up with you in a place where the noise never stops." They were both right, that was the tragedy. Their love was a magnificent duet, but their lives were impossible scores, written in different keys and tempos. Adrian felt a crushing, urgent desperation. He reached out and grabbed Finn's hand, gripping it hard. "Then what do we do? We can't just stop. This isn't how our story ends." Finn's hand, usually so warm and capable, was cold. He squeezed back once, a fierce, final pressure. "We don't end it," Finn said, his gaze unwavering. "We put it on pause, a long, silent rest. You go and become the cellist you need to be, and I'll stay here and become the composer I need to be. If our lives can ever balance, if they can ever run on the same sheet music again, maybe we'll find our way back to the same concert hall." "That's so cinematic, Finn," Adrian choked out, tears finally blurring his vision. "But people don't wait 10 years for a theory to prove itself." "We're not people, Adrian," Finn whispered, and then he pulled Adrian into a hug that was brutal in its finality. It was a goodbye that felt like a severance. Finn breathed in the scent of Adrian's neck one last time, a memory he would hoard like gold. When he pulled back, the bus rumbled into the depot, its brakes hissing. Finn wiped a tear from Adrian's cheek with his thumb, then took a decisive step back. "Go," Finn commanded, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "Don't look back, don't call unless it's about a gig. You don't get to be half present in Chicago, you have to be all in." Adrian, unable to speak, picked up the immense weight of his cello case. As he stepped onto the bus, he risked one look back. Finn was already walking away, his back straight, heading toward the coast. He didn't turn around, he followed his own mandate. Adrian found a window seat, settled his instrument, and watched Oakhaven shrink. He played the separation perfectly, shedding no more tears, focusing only on the itinerary ahead. He built his wall right there, on the Boston-bound bus, brick by painful brick. He knew with a terrible certainty that if he had stayed, the sound of Finn's music would have drowned out the sound of his own ambition. He had traded a life of profound, messy love for a career of impeccable, disciplined achievement. The balance was gone, replaced by a devastating binary choice.